What is going on, guys? It is Wrestlelamia here, back with some more news. As the first Raw after WrestleMania, traditionally a big night for the Red brand. What surprises and returns can fans look forward to? Well, not a lot, to be honest. But anyway, join us now as Wrestlelamia looks at the 12th April edition of Raw, as well as some of the latest wrestling news, including tragic news for Matt and Jeff Hardy. An AEW star was at WrestleMania, Reigns' next opponent, Bray Wyatt responds to Alexa Bliss's betrayal, and much more. Be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell for daily wrestling videos, and follow us on Facebook for exclusive lists. As always, we aren't recapping the matches, but just providing you with the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. As always, we start off with the good as number 1, the new Thunderdome set. The WWE Thunderdome has been a success, and while you don't mess with success, they made some interesting but not radical changes to the Thunderdome set now that it's moved from Tropicana Field to the Yunling Center. The cosmetic changes were just the right touch, freshening things up without taking away from an impressive set. The set kinda looks more intimate now. I don't know, just got that feeling. Number 2, starting the show off right. Raw has been starting off with too many interview segments, so last night's match between champion Bobby Lashley and Riddle was a perfect way to start off the show, showcasing Lashley's dominance and Riddle's determination, albeit determination to get beat up. Unfortunately, things largely went downhill from here. Number 3, Adnan Virk's commentary. Raw also got a shot in the arm on its commentary, with Adnan Virk adding in some much needed fresh blood. While Samoa Joe has been doing an outstanding job on color commentary, Tom Phillips and Byron Saxton added nothing to the show, and we hope Virk and Samoa Joe can gel. Number 4, the new Charlotte Flair. The Queen is back, and while Charlotte Flair claims to be the new Charlotte Flair, fans know she's still the same arrogant superstar determined to claim another championship by any means necessary. The interesting part about Flair's supposed new character is that the promotion is playing off some fans and even WWE superstars' complaints that Flair is overpushed. This is a chance for Flair to renew her quest for the Raw Women's Championship while also creating conflict amongst the stars of the women's undercard, who will hopefully get a chance to usurp her. Number 5, Kofi's DMX tribute. DMX's recent passing didn't go unnoticed by New Day member Kofi Kingston, whose line, "You think it's a game," and adding a subsequent bark, was a homage to the rapper's song What's My Name. It was a subtle tribute that DMX fans undoubtedly recognized and appreciated. Number 6, the Viking Raiders return. While the Viking Raiders return wasn't a massive surprise for the universe, as many fans were hoping for Becky Lynch or even Brock Lesnar to show up, it was still good to see Eric and Ivar back in the WWE. Raw's tag team division needs more good teams, and while the Viking Raiders weren't used well before Ivar's neck injury, the team hopefully now has a fresh start. The Viking Raiders work well as a comedy act, but the WWE may want to consider turning them heel and transform them into a dominant duo. And Bray's back. It was good to see the return of Bray Wyatt, as he returned with the first episode of a Firefly Funhouse in months, as a reborn Wyatt promised no more clout chasing and that he will return. Bray seems to tease a faith healer gimmick, which could be funny, but it could also be Wyatt doing a one-night-only comedy bit. Whatever the case, fans will be interested to see what's next for Wyatt now that his disappointing feud with Randy Orton has come to an end. But that was good. What about the bad? As number 1, Rhea Ripley's pathetic promo. Rhea Ripley's reign as Raw Women's Champion got off to a bad start thanks to a pathetic promo last night. Ripley, an extremely talented wrestler, delivered an unnatural promo that was just bad, with some fans claiming that it looked like the Aussie was reading off cue cards. Now, there's no excuse for this lack of mic skills in a champion, but Ripley doesn't deserve all the blame. They kept her in limbo for nearly a year after she lost the NXT Women's Championship, and should have spent time working with her to improve her stick skills. Number 2, tag team awfulness. Last night's Raw was an opportunity for the WWE to reset its awful women's tag team division, but instead they had Rose and Brooke get intentionally counted out in their match against the women's tag team champions, with Rose and Brooke stating, "It's just not worth it." The WWE's women's tag team division has turned into a joke that no one is laughing at, and in many fans' opinion, "It's just not worth it" represents the time wasted watching it. Number 3, where were the champions? Raw presented a chance for WWE to present its new champions, but where was US champion Sheamus and Raw tag team champions AJ Styles and Omos? Rhea Ripley was the only new champion to get television time, and they wasted a great opportunity for other champions to cut promos congratulating themselves and running down the former champions. While it's safe to say most of Raw's audience caught WrestleMania, why not add some momentum to the new champions' wins by featuring them on television? Number 4, a wretched rematch. Last night's Raw featured a number of examples of the Raw writing team's laziness and lack of creativity, but none more than the decision to have Drew McIntyre go over Braun Strowman and Randy Orton to become WWE Champion Bobby Lashley's opponent at WrestleMania Backlash. Yes, that is what it's called, WrestleMania Backlash. Just give up on the hype train by now. Anyway, there's nothing wrong with Drew McIntyre, and in fact, a Drew vs Bobby rematch should be spectacular. However, it's a rematch that needs to be saved for a major show like SummerSlam rather than a throwaway like Backlash. They should have given the match to Randy Orton, a superstar who could benefit from a major match after his disappointing feud with The Fiend. Now, Raw wasn't a total disaster, especially compared to the last few weeks' shows, but it was a downright disappointment for the show after WrestleMania. Other than the WWE Championship picture, they did little to follow up on Mania. While Alexa Bliss offered a glimpse into a heel turn on The Fiend, it was underwhelming, with Bliss's new doll friend Lily generating more laughs than chills. For those wondering why we didn't put that in the bad, it's kind of just in the middle. Hopefully it'll get better. But that was the good, the bad, and the downright ugly for the Raw after Mania. Was this a Raw after Mania worthy show? Let us know in the comments down below on your thoughts. Now let's move on to the news. Now, our first story unfortunately opens up with the tragic news for the Hardy Boys. As sad news to report as Matt and Jeff Hardy's father Gilbert passed away on 6 April at the age of 87. Mr. Hardy passed away at his home while surrounded by his sons. Matt recently posted a message to their fans via Instagram thanking them for their condolences. Matt went on to say how his dad was the Hardy Boys' biggest critic when they decided to pursue a career in professional wrestling, but they became their biggest supporters later on, and that he was proud to be the Hardy Boys' daddy. We'd like to send our condolences to both Matt and Jeff and their entire family on the passing of their father. Next up, Mr. McMahon changed major matches at WrestleMania. Dave Meltzer is reporting that Vince McMahon changed the finishes to a number of WrestleMania matches, including at least 2 major ones. Meltzer discussed the decision during a recent Wrestling Observer Radio with Brian Alvarez, saying, "I told you about 2 of them the last day. 2 of the major matches, one finish was done on Saturday and the other was on Sunday. One of the finishes, the Randy Orton finish, was changed on Sunday hours before the show. I think there were at least 3 finishes changed." Our fans are still fuming over the finish for the Randy Orton vs Fiend match, an awful ending to their recent feud. It would be interesting to discover what other match finishes were actually changed. Next up, Roman Reigns' next opponent. Interesting speculation from Dave Meltzer concerning the Universal Champion Roman Reigns' next opponent. Meltzer recently observed that former Intercontinental Champion Big E could be next in line to challenge the Tribal Chief. He is theoretically en route to becoming built for a Universal title program, but WWE booking usually means you lose your secondary title when you move up the card. As viewers know, and we discussed this possibility recently, don't be surprised if they don't squeeze at least one more match out of the Roman Reigns vs Edge vs Daniel Bryan program. Who do you think will face Reigns next, and should it be Big E? If so, should Big E be the man to finally defeat Roman Reigns for the Universal Championship? Let us know in the comments down below. Next up, fans were upset with the 12th April Raw. It looks like we're not the only ones disappointed with the post-WrestleMania Raw, as Ringside News recently polled readers about the recent Raw, with 19% giving the show a thumbs up and 81% giving it a thumbs down. The poll was taken by over 1,000 fans when this video was produced. Next up, Bray Wyatt reacts to Bliss's betrayal. A fan's wondering if Bray Wyatt would address Alexa Bliss's betrayal at WrestleMania got 2 responses, although neither one named Bliss directly. Wyatt mentioned being around his real friends during last night's Firefly Funhouse episode, but also made an interesting allusion via Twitter, tweeting a picture of Samson and Delilah. You may recall Samson was a hero in the Bible's Old Testament whose superhuman strength was due to his long hair. Delilah betrayed Samson when she learned his secret, cutting his hair and betraying him to his enemies, the Philistines. Did Alexa discover the source of the Fiend's power? And if so, what's next for Bliss and the Fiend? And finally, an AEW star was seen at Mania. Last but not least, former WWE superstar Rusev, who now works in AEW as Miro, was spotted at this year's Mania. Miro's real-life wife tweeted, "Yesterday I was surprised by Miro and Dad. My father supported all my decisions to get me here, and my husband supported my decision this year to live in a hotel for 250 days, thousands of miles from home, so I could be closer to training. I'm a lucky woman." Miro tweeted back, "I wouldn't miss your match for the world. I love you." Although Lana and Naomi came up short in their tag team turmoil match, the WWE's Ravishing Russian did get a chance to compete at this year's Mania. But there you have it guys, the good and the bad and the downright ugly from the Raw after Mania, as well as the wildest wrestling news stories you need to know. Be sure to leave your comments down below, and I'll see you next time with some more wrestling content.